Hi, this is Kelly, and I'd like to share with you a story out of this book, The Young Folks Shelf of Books. This is volume number 1, Fairy Tales and Fables. These books are very synchronistic. Opening one of these books, like stickomancy, when you open the Bible and you're looking for a verse and you're just going to randomly open up, you can do that with any book. It's called stickomancy. Now, these books have a really good gift for using that. They're crazy. And as far as synchronicities and things like that go, this week has been chocked full of them. I'm going to read from this book. This is The Man, the Boy, and the Donkey. Fables from Aesop. Illustrations by Richard Hayway. It's a very short story. I find it quite enlightening and something that we all go through. A man and his son were going with their donkey to the market. They were walking along by its side. A countryman passed them and said, "You fools! What is a donkey but for you not to ride upon?" So the man put his boy on the donkey, and they went on their way. But soon they passed a man, one of who said, "See that lazy youngster? He lets his father walk while he rides." So the man ordered his boy to get off, and he got on himself. But they hadn't gone far when they passed the two women, one of whom said to the other, "Shame on that lazy lout to let his poor son trudge along." Well, the man didn't know what to do, but at last he took his boy up before the donkey. By this time they had come to the town, and passers-by began to jeer and point at him. The man stopped and asked what they were scoffing at. The men said, "Aren't you ashamed of yourself for overloading that poor donkey of yours, you and your hulking son?" The man and the boy got off and tried to think what to do. They thought, and until last they cut down a pole, tied the donkey's feet to it, and raised the pole and the donkey to their shoulders. They went along amid the laughter of all who had met them, till they came to the market bridge, when the donkey, getting one of his feet loose, kicked the boy and caused him to drop the end of his pole. In the struggle, the donkey fell over into the bridge, and his 4 feet being tied together, he drowned. "That will teach you," said the old man, who had followed them. "Please all, and you will please none." So that's a pretty good story. It goes to tell you can't please everybody. And even when you try to, what happens? Shit starts to mess up. Neither the boy, the father, well, especially not the donkey, were sure in their way. And they were open. They were open to trying to keep people happy, But people aren't going to be happy. People are going to see something, and normally they're going to be contentious. They're going to have something smart to say. It's just the nature of people. And why is it that way? I don't know. I'm sure it's something that we can change. Here's another one. It's very short. I'll read it. This is called The Dog in His Shadow. It happened that a dog had got a piece of meat and was carrying it home in his mouth to eat it in peace. Now on his way home, he had to cross a plank lying across the brook. He looked down, and he saw his own shadow reflected in the water beneath. Thinking it was another dog with another piece of meat, he had made up his mind to have that one also. So he made a snap at the shadow in the water, but opened his mouth, and the piece of meat fell out, dropped into the water, and was never seen again. Beware lest you lose the substance by grasping at the shadows. That's also kind of significant, because Amanda having some rat problems, my friend, and they can get that way. We got mice here sometimes. They try to eat little shit. We don't always see them, but on MASH, that we were watching the show MASH, and Major Burns was making a mouse trap, and it was ungodly strange because he had a big box. On the inside of it was a mirror, and like the mouse was supposed to go in and see itself and think it was another mouse, and then it had something that drops down, taps him on the shoulder. The mouse turns around and with his tail knocks the other thing and gets punched in the face. But, it's just weird because the world is pretty much like that mirror. Everyone you meet and see in the world is a reflection of yourself, more or less, if we are everything. And we are. These are very short. I'll keep reading them. This is the Fox and the Stork. At one time, the Fox and the Stork were on visiting terms. They were good friends. So the Fox had invited the Stork to dinner. And for a joke, he put nothing before her but some soup in a very shallow dish. This the Fox could easily lap up, and the Stork could only wet the end of her long bill in it, and left the meal as hungry as when she began. "I'm sorry," said the Fox. "The soup is not to your liking." "Pray, I do apologize," said the Stork. "I hope you will return this visit and come dine with me soon." So the appointed day when the Fox should visit the Stork, but when they were seated at the table, all there was at the dinner was contained in a very long-necked jar with a narrow mouth, in which the Fox could not insert his snout. So all he could manage to do was lick the outside of the jar. "I will not apologize for the dinner," said the Stork. "One bad turn deserves another." That's pretty shitty. This is the Crow in the Pitcher, also a single page. A crow, half dead with thirst, came upon a pitcher which had once been full of water. But when the crow put his beak to the mouth of the pitcher, he found that there was only very little water left in it, and that he could not reach far enough to get it. He tried and he tried, but at last he gave up in despair. Then a thought came to him. He took a pebble and he dropped it into the pitcher, and he took another pebble and dropped it into the pitcher. Then he took another pebble and dropped it into the pitcher. He continued to do this. At last, he saw the water mount up near him, and after casting a few more pebbles, he was able to quench his thirst. Little by little does the trick. I don't think that would work, but I get the principle. It's the Fox and the Cat. A fox was boasting to the cat of its clever devices for escaping its enemies. "I have a whole bag of tricks," he said, "which contains hundreds of ways of escaping my enemies." "I have only one," said the cat, "but I can generally manage with that." Just at that moment they heard the cry of a pack of hounds coming towards them, and the cat immediately scampered up the tree and hid herself in the boughs. "This was my plan," said the cat. "What are you going to do?" The fox thought first of one way and then another way, and while he was debating, the hounds came nearer and nearer. At last the fox, in his confusion, was caught up by the hounds and soon killed by the huntsman. Miss Puss, who has been looking down sad, says, "Better one safe way than 100 which you cannot reckon." Wow. Lion and the Mouse. Once when a lion was asleep, a little mouse began running up and down upon him, and soon waked the lion, placed his huge paw upon him, opened his big paws to swallow him. Jaws, not paws. "Pardon, O king," cried the little mouse. "Forgive me this time. I shall never forget it. Who knows but when I may be able to do you some turn some day." The lion was so tickled by this idea that the mouse would be able to help him that he lifted up his paw and let him go. Some time after, the lion was caught in a trap, and the hunters, who had desired to carry him away alive to the king, tied him to the tree while he went in search of a wagon to carry him on. Just then a little mouse happened upon to pass by, and seeing the sad plight of which the lion was, went to him and soon gnawed away the ropes that bound the king of beasts. "Why, I was not right. Was I not right?" said the mouse. Little friends may prove great friends." And that's pretty close to the one with the lion with the thing in its Paul the Splinter. The Fox and the Crow. Let's see where this one goes. A fox once saw a crow fly by with a piece of cheese in its beak and settle on a branch of a tree. "That's for me, as I am a fox," said Master Reynard, and he walked up to the foot of the tree. "Good day, Mistress Crow," he cried. "How well are you looking today? How glossy are your feathers, and bright are your eyes. I feel sure that your voice must surpass that of all the birds, just as your figure does. Let me hear but one of your songs, that I may greet you, the Queen of Birds." The crow lifted her head and began to call her best. But the moment she opened her mouth, the piece of cheese fell into the ground, only to be snapped by the master fox. "That will do," he said. "That's all I wanted. In exchange for your cheese, I will give you a piece of advice for the future. Do not trust flatterers." Wow. No shit, right? The Cock and the Pearl. I'm hoping. A cock was once strutting up and down the farmyard among the hens, and suddenly he espied something shining amidst the straw. "Ho, ho," he quoth, "that's for me," and soon rooted it up from beneath the straw. What did it turn out to be but a pearl, by some chance had been lost in the yard. "You may be a treasure," quoth Master Cock, "to men that prize you, but for me I would rather have a single barley corn than a peck of pearls. Precious things are for those who can prize them." He had no need for it. He was hungry. That's like gold when shit hits the fan and there's nothing to eat. What good will money do if you can't eat it? You can only burn it if you're cold. Fox and the Grapes. On a hot summer's day, the fox was strolling through an orchard till he came upon a bunch of grapes, just ripening on the vine, which had been trained over lofty branches. "Just the thing to quench my thirst," quoth he. Drawing back a few paces, he took a run and a jump and missed the bunch. Turning round again with 1, 2, 3, he jumped, but with no greater success. Again he tried, after a tempting morsel, but at last had given up and walked away with his nose in the air, saying, "I am sure they are sour." It's easy to despise something that you cannot get. Wow, that's actually pretty cool. Hercules and the Wagoneer. A wagoner was once driving a heavy load along a very muddy way. At last he came to the part of the road where the wheels sank halfway into the mire, and the more the horses pulled, the deeper it sank. So the wagoner threw down his whips, knelt down, and prayed to Hercules the strong. "O Hercules, help me, for I am in my hour of distress," quoth he. But Hercules appeared to him and said, "Tut, man, don't sprawl there. Get up and put your shoulder to the wheel." The gods help those who help themselves. The Dog in the Manger. A dog, looking out for its afternoon nap, jumped into the manger of an ox and lay there cozily in the straw. But soon the ox, returning from the afternoon work, came up to the manger and wanted to eat some of the straw. The dog, enraged, being awakened from its slumber, stood up and barked at the ox, and whenever it came near, attempted to bite it. At last the ox had to give up hope of getting the straw and went away muttering, "Ah, people often grudge others what they cannot enjoy themselves." The Jay and the Peacock. A jay, venturing into the yard where peacocks used to walk, found there a number of feathers which had fallen from the peacocks when they were molting. He tied them all to his tail and strutted towards the peacocks. And he came near to them. They soon discovered the cheat, and striding upon him, pecked him and plucked away the borrowed plumes. So the jay could do no better than go back to the other jays, who had watched this behavior from a distance, but they were equally annoyed with him, and told him, "It's not only fine feathers that make fine birds." They weren't putting up with his shit. The Wolf and the Lamb. Once upon a time, a wolf was lapping at a spring on a hillside When looking up, what should he see but a lamb just beginning to drink a little lower down. That's my supper, he thought. If only I can find some excuse to seize it. Then he called out to the lamb, "How dare you muddle the water from which I am drinking?" "Nay, master," said Lambikin, "if the water be muddy up there, I cannot drink. I cannot be the cause of it, for it runs down from where you to me." "Well then," said the wolf, "why did you call me bad names this time last year?" "That cannot be," said the lamb. "I am only 6 months old." "I don't care," snarled the wolf. "If it was not you, it was your father." And with that he rushed upon the poor little lamb, and wara 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 ate her all up. But before she died, she grasped out, "Any excuse will serve a tyrant." And that's true. Tyrants do what they want. And why? Because they don't care about what other people want. And if you don't know that they don't care what you want, you might make a mistake and think that there's something you can do about it. You can't. There's nothing you can do about it. You cannot change. You can't make people change. You can try to. It's a common mistake. You know my little area? Area rocks.